Welcome to the deep dive. We're zeroing in today on, well, a massive night in Europe. It's the second leg UEFA Champions League semifinal, Paris Saint-Germain versus Arsenal.
That's right. May 7th, 2025, Parc des Princes. And PSG, they've got that slender 1-0 lead from the first game in London.
Just a one-goal lead. In that first leg, it felt tighter than the scoreline, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A real battle at the Emirates. Dembele got that early goal for PSG, but, if you look beneath the surface, Arsenal actually, well, they probably created the better chances.
Their XG was higher, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1.65 compared to PSG's 1.12. And they made Donnarumma work more 5 saves to 4. So, yeah, definitely left the tie hanging in the balance.
It really did. And the stakes couldn't be higher. A place in the final in Munich, May 31st. Inter Milan are waiting.
Huge prize.
Huge. But look, instead of just a general preview, we're going deep today. We want to really get into the nitty-gritty, those individual player battles that, well, we think are going to decide who gets to Munich.
That makes sense. These massive games often swing on just a few key one-on-ones. So where should we start? Maybe Arsenal's right flank. Bukayo Saka against Nuno Mendes.
Good shout. Saka's is just so important for Arsenal's attack. A huge chunk of their play in this competition comes down that right side. We all saw him against Real Madrid, how cool he was.
Definitely. But first leg against PSG, he was relatively quiet, wasn't he?
He was. One shot from distance, I think. 9 progressive carries, okay, but no real killer passes, nothing that really unlocked that PSG defense.
And Mendes, he's shown he can handle Saka. Remember that league game back in October? Arsenal won, but Mendes actually nicked the ball off him in a really dangerous spot.
I do remember that. Though Mendes maybe got caught a bit early in the first leg.
Possibly. He's such an attack-minded fullback, isn't he? Always involved in their build-up play, second most sequences for PSG in open play. But yeah, he'll have his hands full with Saka's dribbling. Saka averages, nearly 3 successful dribbles a game?
That's the thing. In their first meeting this season, Mendes stuck really tight, but Saka still got that shot off. And Arsenal, back in October, they really targeted that side.
They did. But PSG obviously learned from that, didn't they?
Yeah.
They adjusted for the first leg, marked him much tighter, limited his chances.
It's interesting, the stats around Saka. Teams seem wary of taking him on directly, right?
Yeah.
He faces the fewest dribbles in the whole competition.
Yeah, suggests a lot of respect. But then you've got Mendes, who averages over 2 tackles won per game. So it's a clash of styles, isn't it? Will teams keep giving Saka space, or will Mendes try and get aggressive?
It really is. Tactically, you've got Saka's pace, Arsenal's, overall chances of winning this tie against Mendes' defensive work and that Parc des Princes atmosphere.
And don't forget Partey. If he starts, those long diagonals could be key to finding Saka in space.
Good point. So this battle, Saka versus Mendes, it really could dictate how Arsenal attack, couldn't it? Can Saka produce that bit of magic, or does Mendes keep him quiet?
It's massive. Huge. Okay, let's flip to another key matchup. PSG's hero from the first leg, Ousmane Dembélé, against Arsenal's returning anchor, Thomas Partey.
Dembele. He was electric in London, wasn't he? That goal, his 8th in the Champions League for PSG, ties Mbappe's record, I think.
That's right. Most in their history in the competition. And he's just involved in so much going forward. More attacking sequences than anyone else this season, loves drifting inside too.
Which caused Arsenal problems, especially with Partey out suspended.
Yeah.
But Dembele picked up a knock, didn't he, late in the game? Is he definitely fit?
Well, that's the question mark, isn't it? There's a bit of concern. PSG say it's just a niggle, but we'll see.
Because Partey coming back, that's a huge boost for Arsenal.
Yeah.
His dual success rate, his tackling, it's exactly what they missed.
Absolutely. And his presence could free up Declan Rice, couldn't it? Allow him to get further forward, influence the game higher up.
Yeah, because in the first leg, Dembele found that pocket of space between Rice and Odegaard quite often. Partey's absence, that ball-winning presence, it was really felt.
Definitely. Partey looks solid against Real Madrid on his return, so he should be ready. His job might be to track Dembele when he drifts deep, allowing Rice to play more like a number 8.
But what if Dembele isn't fully fit or doesn't start? Does that change things dramatically for PSG?
Oh, massively. You might see Barcola come in, maybe Ramos. It alters their whole attacking dynamic, how they approach that final third. It's a big if.
So this one really comes down to Dembele's fitness and effectiveness versus Partey's ability to, well, basically shut him down.
Exactly. If Dembele's fit and firing, Arsenal's job gets a whole lot harder. But if Partey can contain him, it opens things up.
Okay, moving into the engine room, in the middle of the park. Declan Rice for Arsenal against Neves for PSG. That sounds tasty.
It does. And Neves, wow, he was something else in the first leg. Just dominated that midfield area.
His stats are incredible, right? Tackles, pressures, best numbers for a midfielder in the Champions League in years, apparently.
Yeah, highest tackle numbers in almost a decade. His pressing was relentless. He completely disrupted Arsenal's rhythm, really limited Rice's impact going forward.
Rice had to play deeper, didn't he, with Partey out? But still passed it well, but lost a few duels, didn't look like his usual self in attacking areas.
Not really, but we know what he can do in that number 8 role, which Partey's return should allow. Getting forward, those progressive passes, even assists from set pieces. He's so effective there.
PSG just seemed to control that middle ground last time, though. Neves snapping into tackles, winning second balls. Rice looked a bit, I don't know, swamped without Partey.
Yeah, definitely more restricted. Fewer of those driving runs forward we expect from him.
But Partey's back now.
Yeah.
So Rice pushes higher, takes the fight to Neves more directly.
That's the potential dynamic shift, isn't it? Rice engaging Neves further up the pitch. And remember, while PSG love to dribble, Arsenal are actually really good at stopping teams dribbling through them. They concede the fewest dribbles per game.
Right, suggests a strong defensive structure. So the question is, can Rice, with Partey's help, wrestle back control and be more of an attacking force? Or does Neves just run the show again?
If Neves replicates that first leg performance, it's hard to see past PSG, honestly. He was that influential.
Okay, back out wide then. Another potentially explosive one. PSG's Kvaratskhelia against Arsenal's Jurrien Timber.
Kvaratskhelia. He was probably PSG's best player in London, wasn't he? Got the assist for the goal, carried the ball so well, even worked back defensively.
Yeah, he looked dangerous every time he got it.
Yeah.
Had shots, that penalty shout, caused Arsenal's right side all sorts of problems.
He really did. And Timber, he's just back for Arsenal, right? Had that recent issue.
Yeah, but he played well against Real Madrid, apparently. Looked composed, good tackler, decent passer. He struggled a bit early on against PSG's intensity in the first leg, maybe.
A little, perhaps. But his dual success is usually good, and he's got recovery pace, which you definitely need against Kvaratskelia's directness. Of course, there's always Ben White if Timber isn't quite right.
True, good backup. But Kvaratskhelia, he just creates things, doesn't he? Timber will need to be switched on for the full 90. PSG's dribbling threat, especially Kvaratskhelia's, is huge.
It is, and Kvaratskhelia offers that two-way impact, which makes him even tougher to handle. He tracks back effectively, too.
It's a great contrast. Kvaratskelia's flair versus Timber's discipline. PSG's dribbling versus Arsenal's collective solidity.
If Timber can somehow keep Kvaratskhelia quiet, that really blunts a major PSG weapon down that side.
Definitely. So, does Kvaratskhelia produce another moment of brilliance? Or can Timber help Arsenal get that vital clean sheet away from home?
It's another fascinating duel. Crucial. Right, one more. Arsenal's left wing, Gabriel Martinelli versus Achraf Hakimi.
Martinelli showed some promising signs in the first leg, didn't he? Forced to save, looked lively.
He did. His pace, his dribbling, they're always a threat. And that could be key against Hakimi, who loves to bomb forward, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. Hakimi is almost like an extra attacker for PSG sometimes. Loads of progressive passes, gets goals, assists. He's always high up the pitch.
Which Martinelli could potentially exploit, right? That space Hakimi leaves behind. Martinelli works hard defensively too, which helps track Hakimi's runs.
Hakimi did handle him reasonably well in London, won a few duels. But yeah, that space in behind, it's tempting for Arsenal.
Especially if Saka is being tightly marked on the other side. Arsenal might look to shift their focus, attack more down Martinelli's flank, and, interestingly, set pieces.
Arsenal are good from set pieces, yeah.
And Hakimi, well, aerially, he can sometimes be a bit vulnerable. Could that be an angle for Arsenal?
Possibly. So it's Martinelli's raw speed against Hakimi's attacking drive and experience. Another direct clash that could easily produce a goal.
Definitely. Okay, so stepping back, looking at the bigger picture, PSG's strengths are clear, aren't they? Possession, breaking lines with passing, individual dribbling skill, and that formidable home record. They just score goals at the Parc des Princes.
And Dembele's fitness is obviously huge for them.
Critical. On the flip side, Arsenal. They were unbeaten in the Champions League until that first leg. They actually lead matches for longer than any other team in the competition. Set pieces are a real weapon.
And Partey's return adds that steal. Plus, they beat Real Madrid earlier. They know they can compete with the best. And they haven't spent much time trailing in games either.
That's a good point. They're resilient. Looking back at the first leg again, PSG had the ball early, but Arsenal's XG suggests they created the better openings overall.
So how these individual battles pan out, that's going to shape the whole game, isn't it? If Saka or Rice or Martinelli can find a goal, That changes everything for Arsenal.
It really does. For PSG, it's about Dembele being fit and influential, Neves controlling midfield again, and just being solid defensively. That's their path to Munich.
History isn't really on Arsenal's side here, though, is it? Losing a semifinal first leg at home. It's very rare for teams to turn that around in this competition.
It is statistically unlikely, yeah. Their own record in this specific scenario isn't great either.
So putting it all together, what's the prediction?
Based on everything, I'm leaning towards PSG winning the match, probably 2-1 on the night. That would see them go through 3-1 on aggregate.
A 2-1 PSG win.
Yeah.
Who gets the goals in that scenario?
I could see Dembele, if fit, or maybe Barcola getting one for PSG, Neves controlling things, and perhaps Martinelli nabs a late one for Arsenal, maybe a consolation.
And the most decisive battles that swing it PSG's way.
For me, it's Dembele versus Partey. If Partey can somehow nullify him, Arsenal have a real shot. But if Dembele scores or assists, it feels like game over.
Any other one?
Saka against Mendes. If Saka can find a way through, that's probably Arsenal's best hope for a goal from open play. But Mendes at home, with that crowd, it's a tough task.
Okay, so the prediction is PSG to advance. Key reasons.
Yeah.
That first leg lead, home advantage, Dembele's potential impact, Neves in midfield, and just the sheer scale of the task for Arsenal, needing several big players to have massive games.
Pretty much sums it up. It really makes you wonder, though.
Yeah.
Which of those duels will be the one that tips the balance? Can Arsenal actually pull it off and defy the odds?
It's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah.
Arsenal definitely have the quality. They've shown that all season. But PSG, with that lead and playing at home, you'd have to say they have the edge, wouldn't you? It promises to be absolutely captivating. Definitely one to watch and see how those key battles play out.